Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 kill team video, where today I'm going over why Talons of the Emperor, so Custodes, are so good in kill team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you agree, disagree? Is there anything I missed talking about the Custodes? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get on with the video. So yeah, this is something I actually meant to cover ages ago. If you remember, about last year for the last London GT, I ran Talons of the Emperor and I was like prepping for it. I had this amazing idea. I covered a bit in my report, and then I meant to cover then how good Talons of the Emperor are still in kill team, because you know I still see them winning events now and again. They're doing pretty solid from the stats and people still have a good run with them, and you have people running into them at events going like, oh, this is going to be easy, and then getting smashed. So I'd like to just explain why they're so good and why they're probably the best Compendium team still, even when it comes to today. So starting off first, there's two people I have to credit with this video. First comes Travis from Just Another Kill Team podcast. When we were on the way back from Nova last year on the train to New York, I was talking about the London GT because it was Into the Dark only. And he said, look, you're trying to pick all these meta teams, just pick Custodes. Because Custodes did really good at the Kill Team Open, which was also Into the Dark only that year as well. And basically everyone was like, it's just Custodes. How hard could they be? And basically everyone lost to them, even very experienced players. And then the one and only Kimmy Jelly. I have to thank him as well, because he actually helped guide me, because we properly met at Nova that year as well. And, you know, I listened to his podcast on the subject because he was the one who won Kill Team Open with Custodes, beating all these bespoke teams, getting his golden ticket. And he's kind of like the Custodes veteran. So he was giving lots of knowledge, being really helpful, and even explaining their flaws at the time and why he thinks they'll probably never really win a big event again. So what happened with the Talons of the Emperor? If you started near the beginning of Kill Team 21, basically Custodes were the best kill team in the game because they had a very powerful tactical ploy. So it was Brotherhood of Demigods. So either at the end of the turning point or when you select an operative to activate, for 1 CP they can perform a free action. And this basically allowed the Custodes to move 6 inches, then you activate them. They used to be 4 APL, so then you would charge, fight, shoot. So all of a sudden, instead of just charging 8 inches, you would effectively charge 14 inches and basically just destroy people, wipe people out way too quickly. You would contest all the points because you were 4 APL, and, you know, they had the most impressive tournament wins I've seen in, I think, ever. They won for basically 6 weeks. They won like every event. It was crazy. After that 6 weeks, then they got nerfed, right? So Brotherhood of Demigods got changed. So at the end of the turning point, you can do a free fight action or Overwatch. So at end of the turning point only, and they went down, Custodes themselves went down to free APL. And then everyone was like, they're fine, just ignore them. You know, they haven't been changed since. Arguably, they could go back to a 4 APL, but the main kill team composition is still either 4 Custodes or 2 Custodes and 5 Sisters of Silence. Generally, when you're running Custodes, well, Talons of the Emperor, you're taking 2 Custodes, usually basically with Power Sword and Storm Shield. So if they have Power Sword and Storm Shield, they can parry twice, and they will have 18 wounds, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, 4, 6, lethal 5 up with a pistol. And then you've got 5 Sisters of Silence, who also take faceplates to give them 3 extra wounds, effectively. Either you take the leader as a bolt gun or power weapon, and then 4 others with power weapons, just to give you some threat. And that's the general kill team. But you can also tech in and run 4 pure Custodes specifically into elites, but I'll get onto that later. Now, people may be going like, but John, they're just 7 operatives at most. How can they be that big of a threat? Well, you may have already realized, but it comes down to Into the Dark. So the funniest thing about Into the Dark, Compendium teams were basically never tested on Into the Dark, and a lot of Compendium teams are suddenly ridiculous on Into the Dark. Notably, I would shout out Chaos Demons, because 12 Chaos Demons on Into the Dark is terrifying. But Custodes exemplify this even more. And the reason is, they also have another tactical ploy. So this is called Talons. So for 1 CP, you use this when either within red of an enemy operative or white of an objective marker. You pick a friendly operative Custodes and a friendly Sisters of Silence, and they can actually activate in any order. They count as one activation, but they share all their actions. So you could like move the Sisters of Silence, then move the Custodes, or more commonly, open the door with the Custodes, charge with the Sisters of Silence, then charge with the Custodes, then fight with the Sisters of Silence, and then fight with the Custodes. But that's just part of what you can do. And then when you're bursting through like down into the dark, you also have Creeping Dread Up, which basically while you're within blue of friendly Sisters of Silence, well, Sisters of Silence you count as being injured, so it just like gimps everyone. Because you just pick a flank, you set up on each flank of Into the Dark, and then first activation you have on either turning point, you do that combo and just win that flank. Because it takes so much damage to effectively kill all of those operatives. Because not only do you have an 18 wound Custodes with a 4-up invulnerable save and a decent pistol shot, you also have an 11 wound mini Space Marine that is making you injured and also generally has a power weapon, so it's 4 attacks hitting on freeze, 4/6, lethal 5-up, which is just crazy. And you don't realize how powerful it is until that combination runs into you. And even if you survive that combo, the other flank will basically do the same thing on Into the Dark, because the biggest weakness with Talons of the Emperor is they don't have anywhere to hide up. But what you do in this situation is you usually send one Custode with 2 Sisters down one flank and one Custodes with 2 Sisters down the other flank, and then the Sister in the middle, you're like just camping an objective and you just walk forward, because eventually you will win, because it's going to take either they put everything to kill the Custodes and then die to the Sister of Silence, or they just crumble. They just crumble because of how powerful this team is. It's just a huge stat check and it's so simple. The fact now they start with an additional command point gives them more flexibility, so you can even pop double fight if you want, but you don't have to. You just have to hide on objectives, charge block, and just win. You can parry out stuff. So hard to kill and really hard to deal for a lot of kill teams. Now, the other thing that makes Talons of the Emperor so good on Into the Dark is the fact that if you just take pure Custodes, you have either Seek and Destroy or Security, so you pick one of those. But if you're taking the Sisters of Silence, you also get Recon. And then you basically, when you're playing on Into the Dark, you just take Secure Unexplored Rooms, Recover Item, and then Surge Forward / Courier, generally Courier. And you don't even have to take Recover Item all the time, because the thing is, when you're surging down a flank, it's really easy to make sure you have at least 4 APL within red of the opponent's kill zone edge, well, drop zone. Basically, turning point 3, you pick a flank which basically has a Custodes on 4 wounds and go, okay, well, this Custodes has 4 wounds. You've almost killed it. I'm going to pick the other Custodes on the other flank with 18 wounds that has killed everything. That's my courier. He just needs to stay within red of your drop zone to like just win me points. And your opponent will just go, I don't have the energy to kill all of that. So you just max, especially with unexplored rooms. So you can just force through a lot of pressure. Now, when I was talking to Jimmy, he was actually telling me the reason he didn't think that combination would be as successful anymore is because back when he won with Talons of the Emperor, you only got maximum 12 victory points for the primary. So what he would do is rapidly stop his opponent scoring any more primary. So he would max out where his opponent would basically fall behind by 2 to 3 points and then still max his tac ops. But with that changing, because usually by the end of the game, you basically have like 1 Custodes and maybe 1 to 2 Sisters of Silence left. So you're actually not in a really good shape to fight the points if your opponent runs past you or really pushes hard down another flank. But it's still really doable. Like, you would be surprised how easily this works on Into the Dark and even on open. Now, while this is much harder to play on open, the fact that if you can just stay safe turning point 1 and safely stage so that turning point 2, you can still do your Talons maneuver to double charge and just mess up people and then secure your points there, then it can work. The reason it's much easier in Into the Dark is because there's no way to be shot across the board. So all of a sudden, just having a Custodes and 1 to 2 Sisters Silence in a room becomes really powerful because your opponent only really can deal with them if they get into that room. It's slightly harder on Into the Dark boards with long fire lanes, but those are quite rare. And as I said, you just take Recon, and even into Elites, unless you're playing on loot, you actually go for Custodes because you will just run through four Space Marines. I mean, your 4 Custodes will run through 6 Space Marines. Your opponent won't expect you to go to 4 Custodes because remember, it's 4 Custodes with shields. So they all have a 4-up invuln, they're double parrying, and they have 5 attack power weapons. So even if they charge you, they're still hitting on 3s, you're hitting on 2s. You have more CPs to use for rerolls, and you have the equipment that gives you a free reroll. So all of a sudden you can just parry them out, kill them on the charge, and then fight and double charge. Well, charge and then double fight and kill 2 Marines very reliably. Because the other big tactical play I forgot to mention was Aegis of the Emperor. So for 1 CP, you can choose to treat all crit damage as normal damage. So all of a sudden, those 18 wound Custodes are basically taking 3 to 4 damage each, and your Sisters of Silence, with their 11 wounds because of the faceplates, go basically to taking 3 wounds each. So they survive a surprisingly large amount of damage. And especially as elite kill teams don't really have much access to base 5 damage attacks, your Custodes can happily charge 2 Marines and kill them both. It's very, very effective and an overwhelming stat check. And the reason it's so good on Into the Dark is because, as I said, there's no real way to get a long shot to punish you. Because normally on open, if you do that, you just have a Custodes in the open, maybe behind cover with a 2-up save. So people just pepper them away until they die. You can't really do that on Into the Dark because you can safely sit on the point and just become a huge threat. So is this easy to play? No, it's not. I mean, if you're playing on Into the Dark only, oh my gosh, is it easy? You just move up and go like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to win the next initiative. I can't wait for the next initiative roll. If I win, you're dead. If you win, you're still dead. It's great. You just walk up and stat check people. So obviously you have to watch out for big hordes, but still very, very, very doable. On open, it's a lot harder, as I said, because, you know, you have to make sure you can safely stage turning point 1 and then also be in positions where you can charge and minimize the returning fire you take, because that's actually the biggest issue to this play, just getting shot, especially turning point 1. That's why they're so good on Into the Dark, because you can't get shot turning point 1 unless you've massively misplayed. But they're just a huge stat check. Is so good. But the other big weakness is you kind of, while you are a stat check, you're not invincible. You will eventually get cut down enough. And that's why, as I said, Jimmy was like, it was way better when we only could score 12 points from the primary, because you could kind of curtail what you could opponent do and just be more oppressive as a controlling force. Whereas now it's a little bit harder to play. And that's the problem I found when I used Talons of the Emperor on Into the Dark. It was just like games were super close and you kind of had to push forward early to win. And then if you got that, it would be amazing. But if you didn't, it'd be horrible. But it is a very oppressive stat check. There are lots of teams that basically can't deal with Talons of the Emperor on Into the Dark. It's basically most teams. Commandos actually really struggle, especially with the change to just a scratch. Halfkin salvagers really struggle. All Eldari teams, like elites, just can't beat them because 4 Custodes will just knock on your door and just destroy you. It's just really, really powerful. But overall, chatting about Talons of the Emperor, they're still the best kill team for Compendium. And the main reason is because you generally go 2 Custodes who are 18 wounds each with a 2-up save, 5 Sisters of Silence who take faceplates, so they're effectively 11 wounds. Then remember, when you've got Aegis of the Emperor up, you can choose to treat all crit damage as normal damage, which makes you even more tanky. You can spend a CP for Talons to group activate a Sister and a Custodes as long as they're on an objective or within red of an enemy operative, and they can share their activation. Then like you can double fight as well. Even at the end of the turning point, if you have enough CP, you can spend a CP to fight again with a Custodes or Overwatch. But they're very, very good, especially on Into the Dark, because you can just win down flanks. You pick Recon, right? You either take Recover Items, Surge Forwards, Courier, and Unexplored Rooms, depending on what map you're playing. And you just choose a flank to win. And then turning point 3, you pick a Custodes to be your Courier who's on 4 wounds, or even a Sister who's on 4 wounds, and then you just win Courier. So it's just a very, very offensively controlled stat check team. But it's really, really good on Into the Dark. So if you're playing an event that is only using Into the Dark, bring Custodes, you'll have a laugh. On open, it's a lot harder to pull off because, as I said, you're more likely to get at risk of being shot turning point 1 and even turning point 2 after you've carried out your first activation Talons maneuver. You're more likely to get shot across from the rest of the board. But generally, you're taking, in terms of the roster, 5 Sisters with power swords, 4 Custodes with power weapons and shields, then 1 Custode with a spear, just in case you want to flex, a leader with a bolt gun, and a Sister Silence leader with a bolt gun, and a Sister Silence leader with a power weapon. And then I also take 4 Flamers, just because on Into the Dark, in case I run into a horde, because that's the tech where you actually just want to move up and start flaming stuff, because you won't kill them, but you'll chip them down. But generally, they're really, really fun. They're actually quite oppressive when your opponent realizes how tough two Custodes and 5 Sister Silence are when they're basically only taking normal damage. Really fun to play, especially on Into the Dark. And that's partly why they're still like the best Compendium team. Just so good and a lot of fun. Even on open, you actually can't sleep on them, and there's still a lot of bespoke teams that actually can't deal with them. And obviously into your elites, remember actually going for Custodes, unless on loot, is actually a really, really good thing to do, because your opponent won't expect it, and then they realize they won't be actually able to kill the Custodes. But then before I go, thanks goes to like Travis for giving me the idea, as well as Jimmy Kelly, or Kimmy Jelly, as he's known around some parts of the UK, who basically showed us all it was possible and made everyone who said they're just Talons, how hard could they be, made them majorly regret saying that. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you like it or not? Are there any other Compendium teams you want me to cover, or do you think I've missed anything out about Talons of the Emperor? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout my patrons. So for my Adepts of the Crit, I have Willax, Turn Zero Gaming, Tom, Super Cow, Sam, Nick, Mercenary Q, John Thomas, Graham, Freeman, Dave Meetswell, Dad of Goldens, Chris, and for my Veterans of the Crit, I have Sam. Just thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I have done 2 videos this week. I will be playing at a tournament in London with my Gallop on Saturday, this Saturday of the video's release. So if you're down there, say hi. But yeah, 2 videos, I've been managing to maintain that pace. It's very tiring, but we'll see what happens. We should be having Tacoma next week, so we might have a Games Workshop reveal, maybe some more Kill Team news. We'll see. But until next time, no matter how many Talons of the Emperor you end up facing on Into the Dark, there's always a chance to win, as long as you can roll a crit.